Life is suffering. This is not just a saying, it is the very first teaching of the Buddha. Yet when we hear it, we often resist. We ask, why should I accept such a dark idea? Isn't life also joy, laughter, and love? And still, deep inside, we know, even joy fades, laughter ends, and love can bring pain. If everything is temporary, what are we truly chasing? In this reflection, we will walk together through one of the most profound questions of human existence. If life is suffering, what keeps us running after goals, desires, and dreams? By the end of this talk, you will not only understand the Buddhist view of suffering, known as dukkha, but also gain insight into why we chase illusions, how to see through them, and what freedom might feel like when we stop running. We will explore the roots of suffering, the traps of desire, the illusions of permanence, and the wisdom hidden inside impermanence. We will reflect on the Four Noble Truths, on simple stories from the Buddha's life, and on timeless parables that invite us to slow down, breathe, and see life as it truly is. If you stay until the end, you may discover that what you've been chasing all along was already here, closer than your next breath. If you find peace in these words, consider subscribing to Mindfulness, where we explore timeless teachings to awaken clarity in our everyday lives. 1. The First Noble Truth: Understanding Suffering. The Buddha's very first sermon after his enlightenment was not about heaven, not about miracles, and not about rules. It was about suffering. He called it dukkha, a word that cannot be perfectly translated, but means suffering, unsatisfactoriness, and discontent. To live is to experience dukkha. From birth to death, we are confronted with it. Sickness, aging, and eventually death. Even in between, there are disappointments, heartbreaks, and losses. And even when things go well, we feel restless. Think about it. Even during our happiest moments, part of us already fears they won't last. This restlessness is also dukkha. Let me tell you a story. A young man once approached the Buddha and asked, "Why do you always speak of suffering? Life has many joys too." The Buddha gently replied, "Tell me, young man, is there anything you love deeply?" The man answered, "Yes, my mother." The Buddha asked, "Can she live forever?" The man fell silent. Tears welled up in his eyes. In that silence, he understood. What we love most also carries the seed of suffering, because nothing lasts. Understanding this truth is not about becoming pessimistic. It is about being honest with life. Just as a doctor first diagnoses an illness before prescribing medicine, the Buddha began by pointing to our condition. Life is fragile, uncertain, and bound to change. Only by recognizing this can we begin to heal. By the end of this reflection, you may see that acknowledging suffering is not negative. It is the beginning of wisdom, compassion, and ultimately, peace. 2. The Second Noble Truth: The Root of Desire. If suffering is the illness, what causes it? The Buddha pointed to tanha, often translated as craving or thirst. It is the endless wanting that fuels our days. We crave pleasure, security, recognition, love, and even immortality, and each craving ties us tighter to the wheel of suffering. Imagine drinking salty water to quench your thirst. The more you drink, the thirstier you become. That is the nature of craving. No matter how much we consume, money, success, relationships, there is always a hunger for more. Let's hear a simple parable. A man was running across a field, chased by a wild animal. In desperation, he grabbed a vine and swung over a cliff, only to see another beast waiting below. As he clung to the vine, two mice, one black, one white, began gnawing at it. In his fear, the man noticed a cluster of strawberries growing nearby. With one hand, he plucked a berry and tasted its sweetness. This is our life, chased by birth and death, time slowly gnawing at our days, yet we cling desperately to small pleasures. The strawberry is sweet, but it cannot stop the inevitable. Craving blinds us to reality. It promises satisfaction, but delivers only temporary relief. The Buddha saw that desire is not the enemy of joy, but the root of clinging. Joy can exist without attachment, craving cannot. To recognize craving is not to reject life, it is to see clearly. When we notice the constant chasing, whether for possessions, status, or even spiritual experiences, we begin to loosen its grip. Awareness is the first step toward freedom. 3. The illusion of permanence. One of the greatest causes of suffering is our refusal to accept impermanence. Everything changes. Our bodies, our relationships, our possessions, even our thoughts. Yet we cling as if things will stay the same. This tension between reality and expectation creates suffering. The Buddha compared life to a river. It flows, never the same in 2 moments. But we want to freeze the river, to hold on to a single droplet. That is where pain arises. There's a story about a woman named Kisa Gotami. Her only child died suddenly, and in her grief, she carried the child's body from house to house, begging for medicine. Finally, someone directed her to the Buddha. He listened with compassion and said, "Bring me a mustard seed from any house that has never known death." Desperate, she knocked on many doors, but every family had faced loss. Slowly, she realized she was not alone. Death was part of life, not an accident. In this realization, her grief softened, and she found peace. Impermanence is not only about death. It is also about the small endings we face daily, the end of childhood, the fading of friendships, the wrinkles that mark our skin. Each change is a reminder that nothing belongs to us. But impermanence is also a gift. Without change, no growth would be possible. Without endings, no new beginnings could arise. The flower blooms beautifully because it will wither. The night is precious because it will end at dawn. Buddhism teaches us to see impermanence not as a tragedy, but as a truth. When we embrace it, we live more fully in the present. We savor each breath, each smile, knowing they cannot be held forever. Instead of grasping, we learn to let go gently, like holding a bird in open palms. Impermanence teaches us gratitude, it teaches us compassion, and it whispers a profound truth. The only moment we truly have is now. 4. The trap of identity and ego. Another subtle cause of suffering lies in our sense of self. We cling not only to people and things, but also to the idea of me. We defend it, polish it, and fear its disappearance. But according to Buddhism, the self we cling to is an illusion. The Buddha taught the doctrine of anatta, or non-self. He explained that what we call I is nothing more than a collection of changing elements: body, feelings, perceptions, thoughts, and consciousness. None of these are permanent, and none are truly ours. Think about the flame of a candle. It burns, but is it the same flame from one moment to the next? Or is it a series of causes and conditions continuing in motion? In the same way, we are processes, not fixed entities. A story is told of a monk who was insulted by villagers. He calmly replied, "You have mistaken me for someone else." Confused, they asked what he meant. The monk said, "The man you insulted yesterday is not the same as the one standing before you now. Everything has changed, even in me." When we see the illusion of ego, anger loses its grip. Pride softens, fear dissolves. We realize there is no permanent me to defend. Life becomes lighter, like putting down a heavy load we've carried for too long. This does not mean we disappear or become meaningless. Instead, it means we stop clinging to a rigid identity. We can be more flexible, compassionate, and free. When we are not obsessed with protecting I, we can open more fully to others. The trap of ego is subtle. It tells us we must achieve, accumulate, and prove ourselves to feel real. But Buddhism invites us to see that we are already whole, already connected, without needing to chase an image of ourselves. To release the illusion of self is not to lose life. It is to finally meet it, without masks, without fear. 5. The middle way, walking between extremes. When the Buddha left his palace, he sought the truth with great determination. He practiced severe austerities, fasting until his body was nothing but skin and bones. He believed that if he destroyed the body, he might free the spirit. Yet after years of torment, he realized this too was not the path. One day, exhausted and weak, he fainted by a riverbank. A village girl offered him milk and rice. As his strength returned, a deep insight arose. Neither indulgence in luxury nor torture of the body leads to awakening. The path must be something different, something balanced. He called this the middle way. The middle way is not just a Buddhist philosophy, it is a way of living every moment. On one side lies indulgence, the endless pursuit of pleasure, possessions and status. On the other side lies denial, rejecting all comfort, punishing ourselves with harshness. Both extremes are fueled by craving, and both end in suffering. The middle way is the path between them, guided by mindfulness, moderation, and wisdom. Consider the strings of a musical instrument. If pulled too tightly, they will snap. If left too loose, they will not produce sound. Only when tuned with balance can they create harmony. The same is true for our lives. If we chase after pleasure without pause, we exhaust ourselves. If we suppress joy completely, we become dry and lifeless. Balance allows us to walk steadily. Let's reflect on a small story. A monk once asked the Buddha, "How should I meditate?" The Buddha replied, "As you would tune a lute, not too tight, not too loose." The monk understood. Meditation, like life, must rest in balance, alert but not rigid, relaxed but not careless. The middle way is not about mediocrity or compromise. It does not mean living half-heartedly. Instead, it means living wisely. We can still enjoy food, love, music, or friendship, but without clinging to them as permanent sources of happiness. We can still work, dream, and achieve, but without believing they will complete us forever. Modern life tempts us constantly toward extremes. Advertising tells us to buy more, eat more, and want more. On the other side, self-help culture often urges us to reject everything, to detach in ways that can become another form of denial. The middle way reminds us, happiness is not in swinging to either side, but in walking steadily along the middle. Think about how this applies to ordinary life. When we eat, do we devour without awareness, or do we eat mindfully, tasting each bite? When we work, do we obsess until we collapse, or do we work with dedication while also resting? When we speak, do we lash out in anger or stay silent in fear? The middle way invites us to speak truth with compassion, neither harsh nor cowardly. The Buddha also gave us practical guidance for walking this path, the Noble Eightfold Path. It is like a compass that keeps us balanced. Right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. These are not commandments, but gentle directions. Each one helps us return to balance when we stray too far to one side. For example, right speech means avoiding lies, gossip, and hurtful words. But it also means not staying silent when kindness needs to be spoken. Right effort does not mean exhausting ourselves. It means making just enough effort to cultivate what is wholesome and let go of what is harmful. The middle way can also guide us through suffering itself. When pain arises, many of us fall into extremes. We either drown in it, overwhelmed, or we deny it, pretending it is not there. The middle way teaches us to acknowledge pain with mindfulness, not clinging, not rejecting, but observing. In that space, pain loses some of its power. There is a profound freedom in balance. It allows us to enjoy the sweetness of life without fear of losing it, and to face challenges without being crushed. The middle way is like walking across a bridge. If we lean too far to one side, we fall. But if we walk carefully step by step, we reach the other shore. The Buddha's life itself is the ultimate reminder. He was once a prince, surrounded by every luxury. Later, he became an ascetic, starving and punishing his body. But enlightenment came only when he walked the middle way, when he let go of both extremes and sat beneath the Bodhi tree with a clear, balanced mind. To walk the middle way is to live in harmony with the truth of life, not clinging, not rejecting, not too tight, not too loose, just steady, gentle steps, guided by wisdom, compassion, and awareness. 6. Freedom beyond chasing. We have reflected on suffering, craving, impermanence, and the illusion of self. We have walked along the middle way, but still, a question remains. If life is suffering, what are we still chasing? The truth is, most of us spend our lives chasing happiness in forms that cannot last. We chase wealth, but money never guarantees peace. We chase relationships, but people cannot remain unchanged. We chase recognition, but praise fades as quickly as it comes. Each chase ends in exhaustion because we are running after shadows. The Buddha did not teach us to stop living, to stop loving, or to stop experiencing. He taught us to stop chasing. He taught that real freedom lies in releasing the endless grasping. When we let go, we discover a happiness not bound to conditions. This is what Buddhism calls nirvana, not a place, but a state of liberation. Imagine carrying a heavy bag on your shoulders for many years. You try to fill it with more things, thinking each item will finally make you feel secure, but the bag only grows heavier. One day, you set it down. For the first time, you feel light. You have not gained anything new. You have simply let go. That is the taste of freedom. There is a story of a monk who crossed a river using a sturdy raft. When he reached the other shore, he wondered, "Should I carry this raft on my back, since it helped me so much?" Of course not. The raft had served its purpose. Carrying it further would only burden him. In the same way, our desires, our identities, even our beliefs can be useful, but when clung to, they become burdens. True freedom comes from knowing when to let go. This does not mean withdrawing from the world or rejecting all joys. It means experiencing life fully, without chains. To see a flower and admire its beauty, knowing it will wither. To love someone deeply, knowing change will come. To work sincerely, without making our worth depend on success. This is living without chasing. Modern culture tells us that happiness lies out there, in the next purchase, the next achievement, the next relationship. But Buddhism gently whispers, happiness is here, in this breath, in this step, in this very moment. When we stop running, we arrive. And when we arrive, we see that what we were seeking was never outside us. It was within, waiting for stillness. How do we begin? With mindfulness. By pausing to notice the craving before it drags us away. By breathing with awareness. By being present with both joy and sorrow, without clinging to one or resisting the other. Slowly, the chasing loosens, and peace becomes natural. Think of a clear lake. When disturbed, its surface ripples and distorts, hiding the reflection of the moon. But when the water is still, the moon appears effortlessly. Our minds are the same. When stilled by mindfulness and freed from endless chasing, the natural radiance of peace shines clearly. This freedom does not make us passive. On the contrary, it allows us to act with greater compassion. No longer bound by selfish desire, we can give more fully, love more purely, and serve more sincerely. We stop chasing for ourselves, and instead, we walk gently for the benefit of all beings. So, if life is suffering, what are we still chasing? Perhaps nothing at all. Perhaps the real question is, can we stop chasing and simply be? We began with the truth that life is suffering, yet as we've seen, this truth is not meant to darken our hearts, but to free them. By understanding craving, impermanence, ego, and the middle way, we find peace beyond chasing. Happiness is not somewhere in the future. It is here, in this breath, in this very moment of awareness. Thank you for reflecting with me. If these teachings bring you clarity, please subscribe to Mindfulness to continue exploring the wisdom of the Buddha. May you walk gently, and may peace be with you always.